Something happened in the last 6 hours that satellite analysts are calling impossible. A wall of radar jamming static, thick enough to blind an entire naval fleet, just went live over a stretch of coastline most of the world had never heard of until this morning. And at the center of that static sits the Karvan nuclear complex, a facility the Calder Union has been quietly watching for 11 years. Tonight, for the first time since anyone started watching, they can't see it anymore. If you're just joining us, here's what you need to know before anything else. 3 hours ago, a Calder Union reconnaissance drone attempting a routine pass along Kavaristan's southern coast lost contact. Not shot down, not intercepted. It simply stopped transmitting, as if the sky itself had swallowed it. Command call signs went unanswered. Radar returns froze mid-frame. And when backup assets tried to reroute around the blackout zone, they found the zone had grown. This is the story of the Skyveil, the defense system Kavaristan swore for a decade it would never build, that the Meridian Federation swore for a decade it would never sell, and that tonight, without warning, without a press conference, without so much as a state television bulletin, appears to have gone fully operational over the one facility the rest of the world has spent a decade trying to keep an eye on. Stay with us, because what we're about to walk you through isn't just a story about a shield, it's a story about a trap, and depending on who you ask, either Kavaristan just built one, or it just walked into one of its own. The background you need. To understand why tonight matters, you have to go back 6 years, to a summer when almost nobody outside the region was paying attention. Kavaristan is not a large country, roughly the population of a mid-sized European nation, sitting on a coastline that happens to overlook one of the busiest maritime corridors on the planet. For decades, its government insisted its nuclear ambitions were purely civilian, energy for a growing population, nothing more. The Calder Union and most of its allies were never convinced. Neither, privately, was the Meridian Federation, though it never said so out loud. What everyone agreed on was this: Karvan, the crown jewel of Kavaristan's nuclear program, was vulnerable. Built into a shallow coastal basin, ringed by hills that do more to funnel incoming aircraft than block them, Karvan had exactly one thing going for it: distance. It sat far enough from Calder Union bases that any strike would require refueling, planning, risk. That was the whole deterrent. Distance and diplomacy and the fragile hope that nobody would pull the trigger first. That calculus broke 18 months ago. According to a former Meridian Defense Ministry official who agreed to speak with us on condition their name be withheld, merchant vessels started making unusual runs to Kavuna's northern port beginning that winter. Container ships, officially carrying agricultural equipment, the official told our team. Nobody in Kavuna's port authority had ever seen agricultural equipment shaped like radar arrays before. By spring, Calder Union satellite imagery had picked up construction at 3 sites ringing Karvan, squat, reinforced structures that analysts initially assumed were new anti-aircraft batteries. Standard stuff. Expected stuff. Nobody panicked. They should have. What the Skyveil actually is. Here's where the story stops being about buildings and starts being about something much harder to see and much harder to stop. The Skyveil isn't a missile system. It isn't a wall of interceptors waiting to shoot something out of the sky. According to Dr. Elena Voss, a Calder Union defense analyst who has spent the last year tracking Meridian arms exports, the Skyveil is something stranger, and in her words, a lot more dangerous, because it doesn't destroy anything. It just makes you unable to see. Think of it less like armor and more like fog, Voss told us in an interview conducted before tonight's blackout began. Traditional air defense wants to shoot down the missile. The Skyveil wants to make sure you never know the missile is coming, or whether there's a missile there at all. It doesn't stop an attack. It stops you from planning one. The system, as best as outside analysts can reconstruct it, layers 3 technologies most militaries have only ever deployed separately. A wideband electronic jamming net capable of scrambling radar and satellite tracking across a 60-mile radius. A decoy network that generates false heat and radar signatures to mimic reinforced bunkers and missile silos across the region. And this is the part that has genuinely alarmed people we've spoken to. A real-time feedback loop that studies incoming reconnaissance patterns and adjusts the jamming field to specifically blind whatever sensor is trying hardest to see through it. It learns, Voss said. That's the word our people keep using, and it's the word that scares them. Officially, the Meridian Federation has confirmed almost nothing. A one-line statement released by its foreign ministry 3 hours ago read only, "The Meridian Federation supports the sovereign defensive rights of its partner nations." No mention of Kavaristan by name, no mention of Skyvale, no mention of Karvun. But General Yuri Kostenko, a retired Meridian military attaché who maintains close ties to current defense leadership, was less careful in a call with our producers earlier tonight. "You are asking me if we built a shield," Kostenko said. "I am telling you, we built a mirror. Point a weapon at Karvun now, and you cannot be certain what you are pointing at. Maybe the reactor. Maybe a decoy built to look exactly like the reactor. Maybe empty desert. This is not a wall. A wall you can go around. This you cannot even find. The drone that disappeared." Now let's go back to the moment that actually broke this story open. Because until 3 hours ago, most of this was theory. Satellite images, speculation, officials speaking carefully, off the record, about a system that might not even be finished. Then the drone went dark. According to a Calder Union defense official who spoke to us on condition of anonymity because they are not authorized to discuss active operations, the reconnaissance aircraft, an unmanned surveillance drone on a routine pre-cleared flight path along international waters off Kavaristan's coast, began experiencing what the official described as total sensor failure at 14:12 local time. "It wasn't shot down," the official said. "We know that much. There's no debris signature, no heat flash, nothing consistent with a kinetic strike. The telemetry just stopped making sense. GPS coordinates jumped 70 miles in one frame, altitude readings inverted, and then nothing. No crash confirmation, no wreckage. As far as our systems are concerned, that drone entered a patch of sky and simply stopped existing. Search and recovery assets sent to the drone's last known position reported the same electronic blackout the drone itself experienced. 2 follow-up aircraft, flying at a distance the Calder Union believed was safely outside any jamming radius, also lost partial contact before their pilots pulled back to open water. "The zone is bigger than our models predicted," the official admitted, "or it's growing. We genuinely don't know which." It's worth pausing here on what that means in plain terms. For 11 years, the Calder Union has maintained near constant surveillance over Karvun, a quiet, unspoken understanding that whatever else was happening in the region, everyone could at least see everyone else. That's not paranoia. That's how deterrence has worked for decades. You don't need to stop the missile if the other side knows you'll see it coming and knows you can respond. The moment you can't see, the entire foundation of that deterrence stops making sense. "This is the part people are missing," said retired Naval Commander Thomas Alder, who has advised Calder Union leadership on regional security for over a decade, in a call with our team tonight. "Everybody's asking whether Kavaristan can now hide a weapon. Wrong question. The real question is whether we can still tell the difference between them building a bomb and them just wanting us to think they are. Because if you can't tell, you have to assume the worst. And assuming the worst is exactly how wars start that nobody actually wanted." The official Kavaristani response. Kavaristan's government, for its part, has said almost nothing publicly, which, according to several regional analysts we spoke with, is itself a kind of message. Defense Minister Reza Dovlan appeared on Kavaristani state television just under 2 hours ago for what was billed as a routine energy policy briefing. He did not mention the Skyvale by name. He did not mention the missing drone. What he did say, translated from the original broadcast, was this: "Kavaristan has always defended what belongs to Kavaristan. Tonight and every night after tonight, that defense continues. We do not need to announce our strength. Our strength announces itself." Regional security analyst Priya Nandan, who has covered Kavaristani politics for close to 15 years, called the statement a masterclass in saying everything by saying nothing. "He didn't confirm the Skyvale is active," Nandan told us. "He didn't deny it either. He let the silence do the talking. That's deliberate. Ambiguity is the entire point of a system like this. The moment Kavaristan confirms exactly what it has and exactly how it works, the Calder Union can start building a countermeasure. As long as nobody officially confirms anything, every adversary has to prepare for the worst-case version of the technology, not the real one. It's a strategy some analysts are calling the fog doctrine, the idea that in an age where satellites can photograph a license plate from orbit, the most valuable military asset isn't a bigger weapon. It's the ability to make your enemy doubt what they're even looking at. The Calder Union's dilemma. So what happens now? This is where the story stops being about a piece of technology and starts being about an impossible decision sitting on someone's desk tonight. According to two separate sources with knowledge of internal Calder Union defense discussions, an emergency session was convened within 90 minutes of the drone losing contact. The options on the table, as described to us, break down roughly three ways. The first option is to do nothing. Treat the blackout as a temporary technical demonstration. Continue surveillance from a wider distance and wait for more information before making any move. The risk, according to Commander Alder, is that wait and see starts to look a lot like accepting a new reality where Carvin is permanently invisible. The second option is to attempt to fly a manned or unmanned asset directly into the blackout zone to test its limits, essentially calling Kavaristan's bluff to find out exactly how far the Skyveil's coverage actually extends. That's the option nobody wants to say out loud, one of our sources admitted, because if it goes wrong, if that aircraft doesn't come back the way the drone didn't come back, you've just handed Kavaristan the political high ground and started a crisis nobody can walk back. The third option, and the one our sources described as on the table but nobody's favorite, is direct diplomatic engagement with the Meridian Federation, essentially asking, formally, exactly what has been sold to Kavaristan and what its actual capabilities are. The problem, according to Dr. Voss, is that asking Meridian to explain a weapon they just spent 2 years denying they were building is not exactly a conversation that ends with a straight answer. Every option has a cost, Voss said. That's what makes this different from every other standoff we've covered. Usually there's an obvious next move. Tonight, for the first time in years, I don't think anyone in that room actually knows what the right call is. The twist nobody saw coming. Here's where the story takes a turn that even our own sources didn't see coming until the last hour. Roughly 40 minutes ago, a second, smaller blackout zone was detected. Not over Karvoon, but nearly 400 miles north, over a stretch of coastline with no known nuclear or military significance at all. Same electronic signature, same jamming pattern, same total sensor blindness, reported by a passing commercial satellite operator who happened to be running a routine pass overhead. If the Skyveil is now active in 2 locations at once, that changes everything analysts thought they understood about the system just hours ago. Either they've deployed a second unit we had no idea existed, Alder said, or, and this is the possibility that should worry people more, the first blackout at Carvin was never really about Carvin at all. It was a test, a demonstration, and the real deployment is happening somewhere we're not even looking yet. Nandan offered a third read entirely. Or it's a decoy blackout, a second fog bank, deployed specifically to make everyone's intelligence services spread themselves thin, trying to figure out which site actually matters. If that's true, it's not just clever. It's exactly what General Kostenko told your team earlier tonight. A mirror. You're not supposed to know what's real anymore. That's the whole design. As of this broadcast, the second blackout zone remains active, and Calder Union assets have not attempted to approach it. The human cost beneath the headlines. It's easy, watching a story like this unfold in satellite images and unnamed official quotes, to lose sight of the fact that Carvin isn't just a strategic asset. It's a town. According to Kavaristan's own last published census, close to 60,000 people live within 20 miles of the complex. Workers, families, a school district, a small fishing economy along the coast that has operated for generations, largely unaffected by the politics happening above their heads. We reached a resident of the coastal town nearest Carvin, a fisherman who asked to be identified only by his first name, Amir, out of concern for his safety. He described the last few hours as unsettling in a way he struggled to put into words. The radios don't work right anymore, he said. Not off, just wrong. Static in places where there should be voices. My son asked me if the sky was broken. I didn't have a good answer for him. It's a detail that's easy to skip past in a story about drones and jamming fields and defense ministers. But it's the detail that matters most. Whatever the Skyveil is designed to do to radar and satellites and reconnaissance drones, the people living underneath it are the ones who have to keep going about their lives inside a zone the rest of the world is suddenly too afraid to look at directly. Where this leaves us. So where does that leave everyone tonight? tonight, with more questions than answers, and a situation that appears to be evolving faster than any single government can fully explain. What we know: Kavaristan appears to have activated an advanced electronic shield over its most sensitive nuclear facility, supplied, if not directly built, by the Meridian Federation. A Calder Union surveillance drone has gone dark inside that shield's coverage zone and has not been recovered. A second, unexplained blackout has appeared hundreds of miles away, raising the possibility that tonight's events are either far bigger or far more deliberately confusing than they first appeared. What we don't know, and what nobody we spoke to tonight was willing to guess at with confidence, whether this is a defensive measure meant only to deter an attack that was never coming in the first place, or the opening move of something the region hasn't seen the shape of yet. The scariest weapons, Dr. Voss told us near the end of our conversation, aren't the ones that go off. They're the ones that make everybody around them start acting on fear instead of facts. That's what a shield like this really does. It doesn't need to fire a single shot to change how every other country in the region behaves tomorrow morning. General Kostenko, for his part, offered a very different closing thought. "You keep calling this a trap," he told us. "Maybe, or maybe, for the first time in a long time, a small country gets to sleep without wondering if tonight is the night the missiles come. Ask the people of Kavuna which one they believe." Both statements, contradictory as they are, might be true at the same time. That's the uncomfortable reality of a story like this one. There is no version of tonight's events that everyone agrees on, and there may not be for a long time. Before you go, we'll be tracking this story as it develops, including any update on the missing drone, the second blackout zone, and whatever comes out of that emergency session happening tonight behind closed doors. But we want to hear from you. If your country woke up tomorrow surrounded by a shield nobody could see through, would you call that safety, or would you call that a threat? Drop your take in the comments, and if this story kept you watching until the very last second, you know exactly what to do. Subscribe so you don't miss what happens next, because something tells us tonight is only the beginning.